Please wait for a few seconds for everyone to join.
So,
We're all good to go.
right, we're live.
Yes.
I believe we are live. Are we live, people?
We're live.
Can you all hear us? Can you all see us?
I think they all can.
All
Hello,
right.
everyone.
Hi. Hi, all. Okay, here we go. Welcome. Welcome to the Wattys Experience. Got lots to share. Lots of wonderful people here to share with you. Woohoo. All right, Deb. Good. She's all ready. We're on deck. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. Rodney V. Smith is here with me. He's co-hosting. Hey. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists, and then I'll introduce myself and Rodney legit. Okay, so we have AJ Arnault, who is AJ Arnault on Wattpad, and is the author of Sailing West, a contemporary romance. Hi, AJ. Thank you so much.
Hi,
She's
everyone.
joining us from her hotel room.
On location.
On location, jet setting. Okay, and then next we have Alix Hicks. He's Hicks Scribbles on Wattpad and is the co-author of the supernatural LGBTQ romance Wolf and Witch, which he co-wrote with his husband, Nick. Hi, Alix.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have Tiana Bodine. She is TL Bodine on Wattpad and is best known for her LGBTQ work of horror, The Hound. Awesome to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, and then we have Zoe Blessing, which she is Zoe_Blessing on Wattpad, and she is the author of the LGBTQ rom-com Falling for the Gun-Toting Accountant. Sounds cool and interesting. Thanks for joining us, Zoe. Are you here? Where is she? Where's Zoe?
I was trying to.
She was just with us. Zoe, we lost you.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. Hold the phone. Let me see if I can get her in here.
Zoe overboard.
Zoe overboard. Wait. I just invited her on stage, so we'll see if she can. Oh, she says she's here. There. She's muted. Unmute. Do I have to unmute you? Oh, there you are.
Yes. I don't know what happened.
Yay.
I was watching everything. I was like,
You were. That's so funny.
I don't see myself.
I was.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. Maybe I was forgotten, but thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Yeah, that was weird because you were there and then you were gone. But I think you were the only one that got blipped out of there. So, okay. Now we have Zoe back. And then we have Rodney V. Smith, who is I Am Rodney V. Smith on Wattpad and is best known for his serialized paranormal story, How Not to Vampire, which is starting its second season on Wattpad.
In summer.
Right? Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. It's in summer.
Okay. All right, cool. And he's here to back me up in case I pass out from nerves. So, all right, everybody, this should be interesting. So we're all here. We're going to talk about the Wattys Experience. I've got my notes over here. So if you see me like looking over to the side, it's because I got my notes. Okay, so everybody who's on the panel has like a little different take on their Wattys Experience. And we also have a couple of us who are boot camp mentors. Alix actually will be a boot camp mentor this year, and AJ and Zoe have been boot camp mentors and a mentee. AJ was a mentee, but I'll let them, talk about their experience. So I actually thought that we could maybe start with AJ and she could talk about her her Wattys experience and how that maybe plays in with the bootcamp mentors experience that she had. So take it away, AJ.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Morgan. And thank you to all the amazing panelists that are here with me. I am among some giants. And thank you to everybody who's joining us live. So my Wattys experience. So I think it's best to say that in 2020, I was a pretty newbie author. I'd been on the platform for only a few months, and I had put together this first draft original fiction book. And I edited it, and I was interested and heard about the Wattys and submitting it. But then as I was poking around back in the day of the forums, and I saw this whole thing about bootcamp mentors, an advertisement seemed almost too good to be true. It was, come and apply to us. We're Wattpad stars, and we're going to help mentor your book. And I was like, I have to try and get involved in this. And so I attended the workshops, and I got help with my summary. I'm pretty sure Morgan was one of the ones to help me with like my pitch. So back in the day, she's been an angel for me for a long time. And anyway, it happened to be that I got accepted as a mentee, and I worked with Sal Mason. And anyway, I rewrote my whole book from the ground up, and I submitted the Wattys, and I didn't win. Wah, wah. I was a little sad, and I kind of questioned, if this writing thing was for me. But lo and behold, in January 2021, I received a message from Wattpad inviting me to the STARS program. So when I got my call and I was chatting, they cited that my story had been internally shortlisted and that they were interested in me, joining their program. And so for me, my Wattys experience was, even though I didn't win, just submitting it sharpened my writing skills, gave me direction, connected me with some really amazing people. I met critique partners and writing friends through the bootcamp program. And then I became a star. And the following year, I was a mentor for the bootcamp program, came back and worked with Holly and co. And I submitted all 3 of my books that were eligible to the Wattys and was shortlisted twice. And I really, even though I didn't win again, I really credit that exposure and the dedication to writing on Wattpad, as to like how I have gained my knowledge on working on making a good summary, making a good pitch, a good blurb, how to market your book, and then how to write it and tailored for the Wattys. So maybe next year will be my year, or this year. So fingers crossed. And so yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you so much. Now that I've figured out how to unmute myself, can you hear me? Okay, good. All right, thank you so much, AJ. That's an awesome story. I love it. I love that you're part of the bootcamp mentors now, helping us in the trenches. So I'm going to move on to Alix, because he also has an awesome story to tell about his experience with the Wattys. Take it away.
Okay. Sorry, I'm so nervous. So my situation with entering the Wattys was, I guess, kind of weird, because at the time that I even found out what the Wattys was, I had kind of I hadn't really realized it until I started looking into the Wattys, that I had really sort of discredited uh, the work that Nick and I had done up until that point. Like I knew that we loved telling stories, and I knew that there was a slowly growing audience for what we had written, but I had entered it, Wolf and Witch specifically, into a couple user-run contests on the platform in the process of us still writing it once we had enough to enter in those. And it just never really did very well. I kind of figured it wasn't the type of story that, just really grabbed people. So I kind of always wrote it off as not really being a contest piece. But when I started looking into the Wattys and kind of discovering like just the method of entering the Wattys, some of the questions that you're asked on that short little form when you enter it, I realized that for one, kind of like AJ mentioned, things like summaries and taglines and blurbs and just how we were kind of representing our story wasn't something that I had really put much thought into and didn't really have confidence doing on my own. And I really wish that I had known that the boot camp mentors had been a thing at that time, because holy cow, that would have helped a lot. But since I didn't, I kind of went back and forth a lot on whether I should try entering it at all. And I decided to. And I never found out if it was shortlisted, longlisted. As far as I knew, it never was. But it has definitely found success on the platform. And I really credit a lot of that to entering the Wattys, because if I hadn't have pushed myself to do that, then I don't feel like I would have pushed myself to consider querying the book at all to anybody. I wouldn't have considered joining like things like PitMad on Twitter, because Twitter is also a big scary place that I have a hard time navigating. So yeah, really that was what I wanted to get out of the Wattys. It wasn't so much whether Wolf and Witch could win, but whether or not I could have the courage to really represent it in a way that I felt like it deserved, and so that other people would know that it existed, and that, I at least thought that it was deserving of somebody's consideration for anything.
I love that story, actually. I think it's very inspiring, and I think it could inspire a lot of people to just push forward, like just keep going. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's what kind of like where we're all at is like we're putting ourselves out there. It's a very personal journey.
It is.
I mean,
It's
it
scary
almost feels
to-
really it is it's personal but impersonal when you're like putting it out there for everybody to
Yeah.
just tear apart,
Well, and I think everybody who's written anything can relate to the fact that when you create something, whether it's something you spent years on or you wrote in a half an hour, there's a part of you in that, and it makes you feel vulnerable to share that with the world, especially on the internet, and where literally anybody can see it. It does take courage. So whether you win something, lose something, entering, in my opinion, is a win. Just putting it out there, having the bravery to do that, I think is definitely a goal that everybody should consider when they're joining the Wattys or thinking about joining the Wattys.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great sentiment, and really kind of segues into why the boot camp mentors are there too, to help build people's confidence, give them kind of like tools, ammunition for sallying forth into the trenches. So thank you so much for sharing that story, Alix.
Thank you.
I'd love to have Tiana share her story next because she also has a really cool one. So welcome, Tiana, to the stage.
Thanks. So I like to joke that with Wattpad, I do everything backwards. Like I just never do things in the proper order of what you're supposed to do. So because like normally people will like enter the Wattys, win the Wattys, become a Wattpad star, like a pipeline that makes sense. I actually was already a star when I won my Watty. I had won a like sponsored contest the year prior in 2017. It's kind of a high profile like horror contest, and at the time was absolutely no one. I had like 69 followers on the platform. Came out of nowhere. Had never like had any reads or anything. So I won that, and it's like, well, now I need to do something to follow that up with, or everybody's going to forget that I exist. So I started writing a horror story called The Hound, and was posting that like as I was writing it, just tossing it up on the platform. It got, I don't know, a couple thousand reads. Like it was not a high splashy release at all. And I was just chugging away at it. And so the Wattys were coming up, and it's like, yeah, I'll challenge myself to finish this in time to enter. That'll be my whole goal in doing this. Is I'll challenge myself to finish. So I finish it, get it entered, and doing my going along with my life, and I get like a notification comes over, and I see that Monica Pacheco from Wattpad had liked my story. She'd voted on it, and I was like, oh no, like Wattpad is reading this, like someone is actually reading this. And so I like go and I'm like looking at her profile and realize that she's like involved with the Wattys, and it's like, well, she's reading this. Like it is that feeling of like when you're delivering a talk to somebody in a dream and then you realize that like you're in your pajamas, right? It's like, oh no, she's gonna see it. So Whirlwind, the Wattys itself was gonna happen like a couple weeks later. So I went on this whirlwind editing spree to try to rewrite the whole thing and make it look as good as possible before anybody like saw it. So I did, reposted the new version like 2 weeks later, got longlisted because that year we had a long list and then a short list and then the winners, which was great. That was my favorite thing ever because I went through the long list of everybody else's like entries and tried to guess what would win and made myself like a personal short list and ended up making a lot of friends on the platform doing that, which was super fun. So the long list comes around. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah. I made it onto this list. I feel like I did something okay. And then the short list comes around. It's like, oh, wow, I made it onto the short list. I feel so awesome. Like that's further than I thought I was going to get. And then I won, which was a little bit of a, like the surprise was taken out of it slightly. Because that year was the first year that they were offering studios deals, Wattpad studios deals, as part of the prize package for winners. So I had actually gotten emailed a little bit before they publicly announced with paperwork to sign because I had to agree to the studio option in order to move forward with that. So you get this email. It's like, hey, you're about to win a Watty. Sign this paper and don't tell anyone. Like, oh no, I can't tell anyone for a couple days. So I'm like sitting there, like chewing my nails, not able to make any announcements until it goes public. But it did. I won in the hidden gems category that year, 2018, and signed the studio deal. And that is been underway ever since. That machine is a very slow moving machine, but it is chugging right along in the background. If you go and like Google my name, you'll see it pop up. Like that's now the thing that everybody knows me for, is that Wattys thing that I just wrote because I wanted to try to write something before the Wattys happened that year.
Wow, that's a great story though. I feel like each one of you has a little different take on your Wattys experience, which I love. I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that, Tiana. Okay, now we have Zoe Blessing. She's going to bless us with her amazing story. Take it away.
All right. I managed to unmute myself. You can hear me, right? Right?
Yes,
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I got worried. All right, yeah, so my journey, so Tiana's might have been backwards. Mine was more of I call it the slow slog, and which started way back when I had this, my first novel that I posted on Wattpad was Sienna, and it's my most popular one now. And I submitted it in like 2018, and I got shortlisted, and I was like really excited about that. because shortlist. I almost made it, but I didn't quite. So next year. So the following year, I submitted another story. So My Mother Runs with Wolves, which managed to get into the paid stories program, which is a win in itself. That was totally separate, but I submitted that, and that one, nothing happened. So it just got into paid stories, so which is cool. So I thought, okay, I'll try again the following year, and it was a young adult science fiction. It was called Becoming Bionic. And I was really excited about it because I loved the story, and at the time I thought it was my best work yet, and nothing. There was no short list. So I don't even know if I made it on there. Probably not. But it was the first time that I'd actually been disappointed. Before I was like, I entered. It's okay. It's fine. And this time I had the expectation. All right, I'm gonna win something. I'm gonna get something, and nothing happened. It was just silence, and it was a little bit crushing. And so, yeah, I wasn't used to feeling disappointed because usually I don't set myself up like that. And so I removed the story from Wattpad and put it on other places. And so with that, I was like, okay, so what am I going to do now? Let's start a new story. And I had noticed how much like romance does well on Wattpad. I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to write my own romance because I don't have any posted here yet. And so I did. I had an idea for one already, and it's called Falling for the Gun-Toting Accountant, which started off with no title. And every time I opened my document and I would look at it, it would say no untitled. And so I was tired of seeing that. So I thought, okay, let's just put in a funny title for now. Falling for the Gun-Toting Accountant. And that was basically what the story was about. And so every time I opened the document, I giggled. Sorry, I'm digressing. But anyway, that ended up winning last year. And so it's funny how I went from crushing disappointment to this win, and as I feel like I just worked myself up to it, and I feel validated now.
I love that. You're so animated when you talk too. It's great.
It's where the nervousness goes.
Yes, I know. I agree. Same way. And you're working with us at the Bootcamp Mentors. And
yes, I'm enjoying that quite a lot.
Amazing job. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. It's wonderful to have you on board because you provide such insight during we just came off of our summary workshops, and you really you killed it in there, honestly. So I appreciate you very much, Zoe.
Yeah, I love this whole program is really cool, and I am appreciative of everyone who's been a part of this, and all the recruits are great too.
Yeah, they are. I love working with them. I was actually going to segue into that because we wanted to also talk about the Bootcamp Mentors program. So for folks out there who aren't familiar with it, if you are planning to enter a story into the Wattys, we can help you polish it. We have workshops that are going on right now through the end of April. The next workshop that starts Monday will be on blurbs, which is basically like your story description that goes, in there describing your story. Like on Wattpad, you have to do that. You have to put something cool in there so it can entice your readers. We'll also be doing something on log lines after that, and then also talking about cover art, like your book covers. We have graphic artists on hand that really have a lot to share with everybody, and we all kind of pile on and like give our input on things. So that all is still going on. And if you're not, even if you feel like you're not ready to submit to the Wattys, or if you don't think you'll finish your story, you can still join the workshops. So, come on in, don't be afraid. We have our own Discord server, which you can find the link on the Bootcamp Mentors profile on Wattpad. So you can just join us and just come on in and see what it's all about. So that's my little plug. I would love to just, at this point, now that everybody's told their Watty story and we're introduced to everyone, like if y'all want to unmute yourself and we can have kind of more of a relaxed roundtable discussion. I do have other topics that we can talk about. Like I was interested to have everybody hear what your the steps you took to prepare your stories for the Wattys, and what maybe you learned, like after you maybe didn't get a Wattys win, how you continued on, and, just kind of like your tips and tricks and methodology. So anybody want to just chime in?
So I've got one, because this was a ridiculous thing that I can't believe I did. And would not recommend to anyone to do it, but also totally recommend to do this because it's really fun. So I got that vote from Monica and then panicked because the Wattys were going to happen and someone was going to see my story in its pajamas. So in my brilliant wisdom, I figured the best possible solution for fixing this would be to rewrite the entire book in 24 hours. So I joined up with a friend. We got a case of energy drinks, and we sat down with laptops in her living room, and on 20-minute timers, we would do a 20-minute sprint and then take a pause and like walk around and then come back and do another 20 minutes. And we did that for 18 and a half hours solid before we gave up, and like the sun was rising and we had gone insane. We'd like obliterated 2 pizzas. Like we were having a night. Her roommate comes out because he was heading off to work, and then he came back from work and we were like much crazier. Yeah, so I was live tweeting the entire experience. Like every hour we'd check in of like what we were doing, whatever. So that's the copy that is live right now. If you go on and go to read The Hound, the like final chapters of The Hound were written at like 5 o'clock in the morning in a caffeine-fueled daze, and somehow that worked. Like, so I've never won a Watty since, is all I'm saying. So I've entered every year, and that was the one that won. So I think maybe the solution is just stay up all night, go crazy, and try not to kill if you do it.
Maybe the thing is maybe it's to not overthink it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to know when it's done or when to stop, or
at some point you have to just move on.
Yep. Yeah. I'm actually with you there, Tiana, because I won my Wattys very early on. Let's see, I joined Wattpad in 2013 and won my Wattys in 2015. And that was before I even started my adult romance, like became Never Fake It. I was still doing YA fantasy at the time on my Buzz Mama profile. And then I noticed how I had a lot of people who were really into the romance part of the story, the story that I won the Wattys on, which was Neon Girl. And it really wasn't like specifically a romance. So I was like, oh, but cool. This is neat. There's a lot of romance readers on Wattpad. So I started the adult romance profile, my Never Fake It, and put Lexi's Undoing on there, which I had been kind of playing around with. And that one just took off like wildfire. I mean, it was just going nuts. That was during the Chasing Red days. So it's like we were like neck and neck sometimes, because we also had the hot list back then, which was fun. That's just all gone in the past now. But anyway, it was fun going through all of that. And I thought for sure Lexi's going to win this. Yeah. But no, sad. Nothing ever came of any. I mean, I haven't won a Watty since then, but it's fine because I'm still, I still have my audience, still got people engaging with me, and it's such a great, it's an awesome feeling, because we are very solitary, worker bees. We're in there with our computers, so it's nice to kind of go out and get onto your Wattpad profile and talk to your people and see those awesome comments and stuff.
Yeah, that's
I was just going to say, correct me if I'm wrong too, Morgan, that like Lexi's Undoing is an audiobook, right?
Yeah. Years ago, Hachette Audiobooks had like this deal with Wattpad where they were going to publish like, I think 50 books on audio. And so, yeah, she was chosen for that. And I don't really hype it up that much because I'm not that thrilled with it, to be completely honest. It's fine. It's fine. I can now claim I'm a published author, but it was, it was fun. It was fun getting that little, email. Hey, we want to put this on the audiobook. I'm like, oh my God, I've made it, woo. But still, I actually feel like just my presence on Wattpad and having that following there, and the people that come back every time I post a new story or whatever, I don't know, like that is, I feel like I've made it in that way, like I'm not among the, I think, majority who are looking to be traditionally published or, like even indie published. For me personally, my Wattpad experience is everything to me. I love the interaction I can get from them. Something that you can't get if you're just putting a book on a shelf in Barnes and Noble or whatever, and you don't know how those people feel, or you're just looking at the bestseller list or whatever your agent might tell you. I don't know how that all plays out, but yeah, like Wattpad is like instant gratification, really. You just go in there and you can see those, like read the emails that popped in overnight. And it's like, ooh, cool, that person made a comment or voted or whatever, it's fun. It's awesome.
It is really fun. I think you're touching into that spirit that I think we all find so precious on Wattpad, like the spirit between the readers and the fellow writers, and then like the audience at large, and having this like run up to the Wattys, where you're working on finishing or editing the book that you want to submit. And there's this like energy, between folks. And I love how everybody builds each other up and, is like cheering for each other. And, that's one of the things that I love the most about working with the bootcamp mentors, is that like on the Discord, it's just that spirit, that encouragement and the resources. Oh, It looks like we have a question.
Yeah. Deb from Heavy. She gonna plop it in there? I don't know.
Oh, it's any tips for writing a book while studying? Oh, some of you might know I'm a grad student. Yeah,
yeah, you've got that.
I'm like super busy. I know a lot of folks work full time too. I am full-time grad student. And I would say I can get very guilty. I can feel very guilty about taking the time to study and not write, because when I'm in my groove, I can write like a chapter a day, 3 chapters a week, something like that. But when I have a lot going on, I can't dedicate that energy to writing. So what I do is on Sundays, I do sprints with my writing besties. We all try and meet up and sprint and share, so carving out some time where you're like, okay, on Sunday from X amount of time to X amount of time, I'm going to dedicate to writing. I'm not going to do homework. I'm not going to study. And then the other thing that I do is I try to give myself a lot of grace and a lot of talk very gently to myself and say, you know what? I have these 2 things that are very important to me. And I need to like allow myself to be okay with, spending time on one thing doesn't mean I'm abandoning the other. So talking very gently to yourself is helpful for me.
I think that's a really important thing, is just being gentle with yourself, no matter what it is you're dealing with. Because if you're doing one thing, then you're not doing something else. And if you switch your focus, you do that, well, then you're not doing this other thing. And there's so many things to feel guilty about that you're just going to be feeling bad all the time. So don't do that to yourself. Just make a plan. And like AJ said, be gentle with yourself. If you don't win, it's okay. It's disappointing, I know. And eventually you'll see like, okay, well, this was the learning experience. This was not wasted effort. And I wanted to win. I didn't win. And if you just let yourself sit with the feelings and look ahead, okay, then what do I do next? And what I did was I eventually got over the disappointment and wrote the next story, which proceeded to win. So just channel your energy into the next thing and try not to waste too much time on guilt.
Yeah, truly. I wanted to find out from any of you guys if you have participated in NaNoWriMo, because I would love to incorporate the boot camp mentorship. I kind of like piggybacking off of that because of the timing. I feel like the timing is really ripe for if you participate in NaNoWriMo and whether or not you finish or, like you hit that 50K at the end of the month, you've got a story there that could be curated for the Wattys for the next year. So have any of you guys participated in NaNoWriMo and then went on to use that for your Watty story?
I did. My story Never Kiss a Vampire was my NaNoWriMo project. I never finished Nano either. I'm a self-editor. I edit as I write, and I cannot separate that. So it didn't get shortlisted and it didn't win. So
That book
but
is fantastic, though, by the way.
I know that's the one
Thank
you
you,
worked on when
Alex.
you were a mentee.
that
You
was
worked on
a
that?
different one. It was a different one. I changed the name of it. It was called The Problem with Dying. Now it's called Solving the Vampire
Yes,
Murders.
yes,
But
That
yes,
one is
right. I
also
remember
really good.
I've read
both.
Alex is like, FYI, if you didn't know, Alex is like one of my writing besties, and like Endgame, we are gonna write a universe like mashup one day. But I because his universe is amazing and I absolutely love it. So but yeah, I think that's a good idea, Holly, because honestly, if you can't, if it segues really well into like the Wattys and the bootcamp mentorship, if you can bust out, a good chunk during Nano and then polish it up and then get it ready for May for the submission window, that would be a good flow. So yeah, if there was interest having, some kind of like Nano project in bootcamp, I think.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about something like that. I don't want to step on any toes, but I think, yeah. Because, they do promote Nano on Wattpad. There's some promotion for that. So that could be good. So I'm looking at some of these topics. And I want to kind of keep on the Wattys theme. One of them is, have you changed your writing habits since the Wattys experience? Like since, being involved in the Wattys, like I think most of us have entered things in the Wattys every year for a number of years since we've been on Wattpad. Do you feel like you write towards the Wattys or what?
Well,
I
now I'm
kinda
going to go on a
do.
caffeine bender, FYI.
Yeah. No, I kind of do. I at least I've tried entering every year that I've been able to since then. Haven't won anything yet, again, but I can't be greedy. But one of the things that I try to pay attention to is because the rules for like what's available to enter change a little bit from year to year, but it seems to be a pretty safe bet that if you wrote it like that same year, you can enter it like pretty much all the time. So I always try to have like a new project a year that I start in the new year so that I will always have something ready, which serves two purposes. One, I'll have a project hopefully ready in time to enter. And two, I have a reason to finish whatever I started writing in January. As you might notice a theme here, I'm real motivated by those external deadlines. And so if I know, hey, I have to have this thing finished in time for Watty season, then I can look ahead. It's January now. Here's what I'm going to be doing for the next 9 months of my life or, whatever. So I'll plan out my schedule based on that.
Okay. All right, good. Anybody
My,
else?
well, my own writing experience hasn't actually changed all that much because I don't like posting anything unless it's already gone through a round of edits by me, because I do edit as I go, and I usually write offline, and I have the whole story already written and I've gone through it once, and then as I post it, each chapter I'll edit it again, because seeing it in a different font actually helps with the editing process. I'll catch things I didn't see before, and so I'll post things. And so everything that I post on Wattpad, I believe, is ready to be submitted. And I've done that since the start, because I don't like posting first drafts, and that's just a personal preference. I know a lot of people like to get feedback, and which is valid, getting feedback on your first draft. But I personally prefer to have a more polished foot forward.
No, I'm the same way, Zoe. I didn't know that about you, but yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. I don't want to put that first draft out there. It's scary, because what if they're like, this really sucks?
Yeah, it tends to be. I'm a pantser, so things are a bit uneven, and
right,
so
exactly too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you want to have your ending figured out, or you want to know what your characters are going to be doing. Otherwise, you go back and you're like, have to re-explain things to people. Now, this didn't actually happen. I took it out, and so now something.
Yeah, and then when you need to edit, you figure out, okay, I need to change this, but then you have to go back and change these other things, but it's already posted, and so it's like it gets messy. I'd rather have the mess offline.
Exactly. Okay, we did have another question come in. What is the biggest mistake you ever did while writing for your Wattys? Would you like to give advice that they could learn from? If there was a mistake you made
for that.
Okay.
I always have plenty of mistakes to share with people. So I kind of touched a tiny bit on this earlier when I had mentioned not really thinking much about how I was representing our story before. And I would really want to impart the advice on people to think about that. Don't just kind of, especially if you're a pantser like myself or like Zoe, and be, trotting along, writing your story, and think that whatever you happen to have thrown up there for your blurb at one point is still representative, or the first thing you came up with for your blurb is still representative of your story by the time you go to enter it into the Wattys or put it in front of people, because the point of all of that is for your audience. It's so that when somebody is going through all of these millions of stories that they're looking at, they decide, a lot of them will anyway, right then and there, based on your blurb, based on your tagline, is this the type of story that I'm interested in? Do I want to spend any time looking at this story? And for a lot of people, there are certain things that they know that they enjoy reading. Then there's kind of a section of stuff that they're like, I might want to try reading that. And then there's the stuff that they just know that they don't like and that they don't want to spend time reading. And early on, like, I wasn't really sure how to get across the type of story that we were writing to people. And the biggest mistake was that I realized that, going off of our earlier blurbs that we had for like Wolf and Witch, for example, people were expecting to come in and find like a, like fun, magical, like lighthearted, boy ex boy story. And they started reading and were like, what is wrong with your characters? Like, why don't they talk to each other right? Why do they have so many issues? Like, this kind of dark. Why aren't they using magic more? Like, what is this? And it was happening enough that I started to kind of get the idea in my head that, maybe they think this because I set them up with the wrong expectations. And the way that I had accidentally done that was that the tone of our blurb and our summary and our log lines wasn't correct. it wasn't representative of a realistic or magical realism drama that, you know, had werewolves and had romance. It wasn't right for what story we were selling, basically, because that's what you're doing when you're putting that information on Wattpad and, you know, hitting publish. And that matters when audiences are looking at it. It matters when judges for the Wattys are looking at it. So if you don't think about those things ahead of time, then your story can be really well written. It can be amazing and inspired and creative, but it's kind of like if you sit down at your bestie's house and they've been telling you all day, all right, look, we're going to chill, you know, we're going to order a pizza and have drinks, and we're going to throw something on the television and we are going to hang out. And you get there and like, none of that is happening. They're like, look, I have to file my taxes right now, so you're going to sit here and keep me company while I do that, but don't go too crazy because I'm trying to do numbers. Like, you know, they're still your best friend. Yes, you're still probably going to enjoy being in their company, of course. But those expectations are completely different. And would I have gone over, helped you with your taxes and kept you company? Yeah, sure. But don't get me excited for like a fun, you know, Friday night and then I have to try and help you number, you know? So that's my big mistake that I have made multiple times in the past with stories. Don't do that. Think about the tone of what you're writing and how you can best prepare people for that before they start reading your story.
Very good advice. Yeah, and I think probably, I mean, I know I've fallen prey to that too, like having my story description up, and then after a time, I've changed the names of a character. Like I've changed the character name, and then I've got people going, "Who is this Corey guy? I thought his name was Cody." And so, yeah, you have to like be checking off all the boxes and go back and make sure everything is in sync with each other. Especially because one of the other wonderful things about Wattpad is you can change, you can edit stuff. Once it's published and put on a book, it's kind of there for at least for the next run until the next run goes out. But yeah, on Wattpad, you can, change things up and manipulate it. So, but
And
then
get
you fall
that
prey to
live
that.
feedback too. That's
Right.
again with the feedback, your audience, even if they don't tell you in the most graceful of terms when they don't like something, pay attention to it. It might honestly not be somebody just trolling you. It could be that there are other people who actually agree, but aren't taking the time to say it. And it could be something that you could improve. But we as Wattpad writers have the benefit of that. Whereas, like you were saying with traditional publishing, you can get beta readers and things like that, but the ability to get that feedback, that very precise feedback that we can on Wattpad is something that I think is really unique and something that's really valuable.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. I agree. I was just looking at this question that came in, and I don't understand it. If you could
They
add
mean
one
like
fun
like
category,
best character. Is that what they mean? Like best
you
character?
could add one fun category to the Wattys, what would it be? A fun category. Well, I was actually yesterday when I was interviewed with Rodney, I was telling him that my Watty that I won was actually for multimedia. It was the first year that they had introduced being able to put like graphics and like YouTube videos and things into your chapters. And so like my story had 88 chapters. It was based on a musician. She's a piano player and singer. And so I had 88 chapters for the 88 keys on a keyboard. And every chapter had a song attached to it that had the theme of the chapter. So I guess they were really impressed with that. Maybe not my writing as much, but they were impressed with that part. So that was kind of a fun category, because it it was like different than your traditional, we're going to have fantasy, we're going to have romance, so I don't know what would be, do they even have a specifically a humor category? Because I love reading humorous stories. I'd love to see them add that. That would be fun to me.
How
You know
about
what I'm going
something?
to say? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. How about something like side character who steals the show? Like,
Oh,
I know,
yeah.
yeah,
Side characters are a blast to write.
yeah, they are, because you don't feel so compelled to have a character, like a careful arc, their development. They're just sometimes they'll support the main character or offer comic relief, and I
Right.
enjoy writing them quite a lot. And, sometimes they outshine the main character because angst is can get tiresome.
You're right. I love, supporting cast is awesome. It's
Yes,
a lot of
best
fun
supporting
to write.
cast, especially the ones who steal the show, are very fun.
Yeah,
I like,
there you
and
go.
then movies too. I love movies with sidekicks that are just cracking jokes and making me laugh because the main character is so serious.
Right.
And AJ, what were you going to say?
Oh, Zoe, I love that so much because honestly, I'm the person that when I read, I fall in love with the side characters more than the main characters, like every time.
Yeah, they're so fun.
Yeah.
It seems like you can have a little more freedom with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think they become fun because you have the freedom, and so you don't feel inhibited to follow a certain script.
Right. The whole character arc, the growth. Your side characters can stay the same, beginning to end.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you, Alix, when I say that. That's like all of his side characters are so amazing, and I always they're all like, well, I have a lot of my favorite characters in his universe, but
I think
a
it's
lot of
because
side
we
characters
never
so
worry about whether or not people like our side characters. And so they just come out as they are, and we're like, well,
that's right.
There you go. But, when we're writing a main character, of course, whether we, put a lot of effort towards it or not, I feel like all of us want everybody to love our MCs because that's who the story is essentially about. So I feel like we kind of filter ourselves in some ways for MCs in ways that we don't for side characters. Because, like, when we want somebody to just say something ridiculous and off the wall or edgy or be problematic, that burden usually falls to side characters more than it does to main characters, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Okay,
my first
I'm
book I
looking
had.
for
More topics?
Well, we do. Go talk.
In what?
I said add.
Okay. So when I wrote the Sienna, which is like book 1, and it eventually became a series, and it was the book 2 was basically the main character is now the side character that I had in book 1. And then book 3 was yet another side character that I liked so much that I decided she needed her own story. And so I just thought that was an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I think a lot of writers do that. They'll create other books, and it's based on the other characters that were really engaging and people really connected with.
Yeah, exactly.
So you write good side characters, Zoe. It's awesome.
I like to think so. I hope so. Yeah, because I enjoy like fun, witty dialogue, and I can't have witty dialogue if the side characters are boring.
Right. Yeah. Somebody was asking, how do I get writing besties? I know that last month we did a critique partner matchup. The Writers Connect did that, and that's one way, is to look for places where you can find critique partners.
Where writers congregate.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a trick. It's not just a one-size-fits-all thing. Sometimes it's just talking with other writers and finding a person who really syncs with you, and you share common interests and stuff. I don't have one, actually. I used to have one years ago, and we no longer do that. But since then, I haven't really found anybody that I gel with. So I don't either. Like I said, it is, like it's just kind of
The lone
staying
wolves.
out there, staying exposed. And what's that?
I said they're
Lone
lone wolves.
No, I don't
I get
necessarily
really
want to.
Solution to this that's very obvious. We'll just
What
ship you
is
guys together.
Yeah.
So,
Zoe.
The ship has sailed.
all right, rolling off to you guys.
Oh.
Matchmaking service. We're on it.
Okay.
I guess we'll have to exchange
Oh.
writing samples and see.
Oh, that would be awesome. You two should.
my
I have
gosh.
all the comments for this because I would not be where I am without my writing besties. Like, for real. Like, I give them all so much credit. Like,
Where did you meet them?
so bootcamp, definitely bootcamp. In the Discord server, my very first critique partner, Willow, she was a mentee with me, and now she self-published her book. She was like such a cheerleader and just an encourager, and would help me. Like, I'd bounce off ideas. I remember telling her I need to write a note in which the love interest says he wants to put something in her mouth. Fingers, not, it's a little X-rated, but anyway, I need to make this like be funny. Can you help me like make this be funny? And she was like, I got you. And we just like went back and forth, like, how do we like punch it up? Because I was like, I need this to like resonate as like, to like be funny. So anyway, that's really good. And then to this day, like, I still send pieces. My former mentees, like, we share pieces of writing, we give comments on each other. So I think it's really important to like connect with folks, like-minded folks, and then to be open. Like, when somebody gives you like, oh yeah, I'd love to like give you some comments on your work. When you hear what they say, then don't turn around and be like disrespectful and really like upset about it. Be like, okay, hear what they say. Doesn't mean you have to do everything they say, but they're usually saying it for a reason. So I guess that's one way to do it. Also, the ONC, like just reading other people's works or entering contests and like commenting, and just, I guess it's hard for some of us to be social. I'm like a super insatiable extrovert. So for me, I know that that's easier. For some folks, I know it's a little bit harder, but I'll stop talking. Okay.
Thank you so much, everybody. You guys have been wonderful. Provided a lot of information here for everybody. I see that we're winding down a bit on time, but I want to do a little plug about the boot camp again. It's super easy just to get in there and start, talking and chatting with people. Even if you don't have a story that you feel is ready for the Wattys, you can gain a lot of information and meet wonderful people. We have lots of channels in there where you can communicate with others. And I can see people pairing off, hey, can I DM you and stuff. It's just really inspiring and warms the cockles of my heart when I see people engaging and interacting that way. Yeah, that. So, yeah. Okay. Hey, Rodney has popped back in after his visit to the bar. Are you at the bar? It looks like you're in the forest.
It's a magical forest.
It's a magical forest. What have you been doing in the magical forest? What have you been picking?
Beer and vampires and stuff. Yeah.
Beer and vampires. Okay. Awesome. Well,
Right, so I came back into to say excellent job on the panel. Great talk, and to help you guide the way out.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Right,
I will take your advice on this.
I also want to remind everyone that we do have some Instagram live interviews coming up next week, and I'm going to be tackling Tiana, Alix, and Zoe at some point. So keep an eye out for those on our Instagram channel. I've already gotten you, Morgan, and AJ. AJ was absolutely wonderful and knocked it out of the park. And so I loved your interview yesterday. So I expect the same kind of energy from everybody else. No?
It was fun. I enjoyed it. I was very nervous about it, but I feel like it really helped me feel better actually about this day, which was my virgin voyage on hosting and talking with virtual people. And you guys are all awesome. Everything, it's been wonderful doing this. I love it.
You did a great job, Morgan. You did a great job.
Oh,
Well,
thank
it's
you.
pretty much done, so.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Lead us out.
All right. Ah,
Oh, well,
thank you guys.
Our next panel. Our next panel is coming up next month. It's plotters versus pantsers, and it's probably going to be happening around the same time that the Wattys are going to be announced. For the rest of the next month, it is Wattys month. So we are going to be meeting and more Watty Award winners over the next couple of weeks on our Instagram. And so this is a good time to actually learn more about the Wattys experience beyond just what we have on the panel. So people's schedules are all over the place, but I've managed to lock them down for the rest of the month. So please join us Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays as we talk to each of these writers.
Okay. Wow, it was so great to do this. Thank you all. Thanks to all the panelists for sharing everything that you have. I think it was very informative, and I'm pretty sure our participants are feeling the same. Thank you, everybody. Can't wait to do this again. Woohoo!
Okay, everybody, say bye. Bye, and we'll see you.
Bye.
Plotters versus pantsers. Right.
Okay, bye-bye, all.
Bye.
Somebody stop this thing.
I hit the button.